Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Super excited for this episode today on all things manifestation and abundance. And we have Kristen here. How are you doing today, Kristen?
I'm so good. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for making time all the way from Costa Rica, you said is where you're at, right?
Yes, I'm living in Costa Rica right now. And yeah, so happy to make the time.
Amazing. I wish I was there with you. I'm missing the jungle. And before we dig in, maybe you can end with like how you're in Costa Rica right now, but I'd love to hear a little bit about just your personal story, how you created this business that you have, becoming such a great teacher in the spirituality and manifestation field. So can you give us just a little bit more about you and what you do, who you serve?
Of course. So where to even begin? So many things. I guess about 3 years ago, I was in a corporate job and I had kind of spent actually my entire adult life jumping from job to job. I've failed at, I think, up to like 45 online businesses. I worked in a sandwich shop for $3 an hour. All of these things, I've done all of it. And I did waitressing. And then I finally was like, you know, fell to the pressure of parents. Yeah, after failing for 5 years, I was like, maybe I'm just not meant to be an entrepreneur. Maybe I'm just not meant for me. So I got a corporate job, was absolutely miserable, hated my life. It was probably, it was just a rock bottom for me. I was completely broke. I was sharing a bedroom, sleeping on a mattress on the floor because I couldn't afford a bed frame, walking to work because I couldn't afford a car. Like it was miserable. I felt like I had no purpose. And that's kind of when I started to learn about manifestation and like dove into spirituality. And I'd kind of played with it before, but it never worked for me in the past. But I was so desperate in my life that I was willing to give anything a shot. And I remember I had one moment where I was just like, you know what, universe, like hands in the air, I surrender. I don't know if there really is a universe or a God or any energy out there listening to me, but if there is by any chance, like I swear to you, I will say yes to whatever you put in my path, no matter how terrified I am, as long as I have a chance at making my dreams a reality. And I kept that promise. And the next 6 months transformed my entire life. And I went from corporate job, failing online businesses to my first 10K month and creating a six-figure business in less than 6 months. And then going on to manifest my entire vision board and, crazy magical things happening. And I became the manifestation coach that I am now. And it kind of all, happened by accident. I never chose what I'm doing. I was just sharing my own journey of trade and now, and it kind of just hasn't stopped since then. So that is the very short version of kind of how I got where I am.
Ah, amazing. And what were some of those first, when you were like, surrendering? We could do a whole podcast episode about just surrendering.
Mm-hmm.
But when you were like throwing your hands up, like, I don't even know who's listening, but if you show me something, I will follow it. What were some of those first like pings or signs that came to you?
There were so many different things. I mean, the first one was hiring a mentor. I had kind of been thinking about it, but terrified to do it because I was living paycheck to paycheck, never knew how I was even going to make rent happen. And someone just kind of appeared in my life and the opportunity presented itself. And I paid my rent money. I paid my rent money for 1 hour and a half long session with a mentor. But that was kind of like the first like surrender, like act of trust and faith, and the money came back. And I continued from that point to hire mentors that were out of my financial league for the next 6 months to 8 months of my life. And every single time the money continued to come back and I would reinvest it. And I think that's a big part of why I am where I am. I make really scary financial decisions that would freak most people out, but that's why I have the business I have. And then I think the other half was action that I was terrified of taking. Like I had always had this inkling to start a podcast, and I started getting all these signs, like people would mention podcasts to me, or it was weird. It kept coming up. And I was terrified, like scared shitless. My first few podcasts, if you listen to them, it's just, I'm a different person. I'm so shy and I don't speak like I do now, but I just did it. And I remember I I had nowhere to record. So I would go to my corporate job on the weekends. I would sneak into the building because we weren't allowed in, and I would record my podcast there. And so just small things like that is, action that in hindsight doesn't seem that big, but in the moment was really terrifying. Like felt like the end of my life to be putting a podcast out in public. So things like that just built up over time and kind of brought me to where I am now.
I love that. Yeah, it's just small things, but noticing, slowing down enough to notice like what's calling to you, and then having the trust in yourself, the trust in your gut to just be like, this has been intriguing me and this keeps showing up. I'm going to go that direction.
Yes.
That right there is such a powerful lesson in intuition, especially if a lot of us, myself personally, up until recently, like had so much trouble with trying to tune into my intuition. And I think a lot of us lose that at some point in our like adolescence to early adulthood. So even just relearning that process of slowing down and listening and be like, what's intriguing me right now? And then having to just like dip your toe a little bit in that direction.
Exactly. And, it can be terrifying. And I think what holds most people back and what used to hold me back was the fear of, is this my intuition or is this just something else? Is this my fear or my programming or my conditioning? And we get so caught up in like, how do I know if it's my intuition? And what I realized in my journey of learning to trust myself and trust that gut instinct again was it doesn't really matter whether or not this is like you're perfectly coming from your intuition or your highest self, or what matters is that you're taking action, because intuition matters after you take action on it. And so if we're waiting for it to make sense before and trying to logically figure out if this is our intuition and if it's going to play out in the right way, we're going to stay stagnant. And so the best way to learn to trust your intuition is to take action on it without having to know if it's like the exact perfect move or if that is really your intuition. And that was kind of my thing, is like just spontaneous action. Whenever I felt inspired, just taking action right away. Just 3, 2, 1, go, 3, 2, 1, go, 3, 2, 1, go, over and over and over. And there were times where I flopped and I failed and I just, fell on my face and it was horrible. But those are the moments I needed to learn the lessons that allowed me to, attract everything that I have now. So I think that's the most important thing is 3, 2, 1, go. Stop waiting for it to make sense.
Mm-hmm. That's powerful. And you mentioned fear there, which I think a lot of people confront, and making scary investments, which again, a lot of times that goes hand in hand for a lot of people. Like we have this set budget, we have this set lifestyle, we want something different, but then we start saying, oh, that's too expensive, I can't afford that. And we like immediately dig into this dialogue that's keeping us in this energy of scarcity, specifically with money, which I really wanted to talk to you about today. Especially because, I'm a coach, you work with clients as well. I don't know, maybe you don't get this ever anymore, and it's a healing opportunity for me. But I'd say if I ever have someone say no to me after like a connection call or a strategy session, it's because of finances. And I think a lot of people use that as like a roadblock they can throw up and be like, no, I guess not right now. I'm going to, whatever, just stay the same or go to my comfort zone or whatever it may be. Would you kind of call bullshit on that too? Or like, what are your thoughts on using finances as an excuse to not take a step forward that calls to you?
I have so many thoughts around this because this has been such a big piece. And obviously any coach or any entrepreneur, this is a big piece of your business. Is no matter what level, whether you're charging $10 or you're charging $100,000 for your services, you're going to have people who say no, who are having financial blocks, no matter what level you're at. And it still happens to me now, even when it happened to me when I was charging $100 for a program when I first started. And it happens to me now when I charge $7,000, $10,000, $13,000, like my prices are much higher. And the way I look at it is if someone is all fully in on what they desire, the way that I was all in on what I desired, they're going to make it happen. And sometimes in that exact moment, it's not aligned. Some financial no's are just a no for now, because I've had people who are like, you know what, I am all in on this. I actually don't have the money, don't have a credit card, don't have any family members to ask for money, but I'm going to make it happen. and they've come back in a month and miraculously manifested the money. It's happened over and over and over. So I think that if you are truly all in and your soul is calling you in a direction, like your desires desire you. So if you really have this soul aligned desire to work with someone and you're all in committed to that happening, then you can make it happen. And I've in my own life, I've seen it happen over and over and over. And so it's just dependent on the person's energy. And for me, when someone is a no because of finances, I'm like, fine, that is totally okay. I am only available for someone who is a full body fuck yes for me and my work. I'm not available for people who question my prices. I'm not available for people who want to justify my prices. I'm not available for people who want to nitpick and make sure that they're getting enough to make the price worth it. Like, no, I am not available for that. I've decided the kind of client I'm available for. And when anything else shows up, fine, I let them go with love, and it makes space for who I really want. And sometimes when I get way too many people who are put up financial barriers, I raise my prices because it's like, okay, I don't have enough excitement behind this. I'm attracting people who are not all in. And I did that a couple months ago. I was getting wishy-washy people and people who weren't all in. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not excited enough about this price. And what old me would have done 4 years ago was lowered my price to make it attainable to those people. What I currently do is, no, I offer so much free content. I'm going to stick to this price and I'm going to raise it to what makes me more excited. And literally 2 days later, I had someone come and pay me in full with no questions asked. So it's all energy. Like, yes, people can come with their excuses, but the way I see it is it's not our job to convince anyone to work with us or to justify our price. Like, I will never justify myself. It's my job to get clear on my energy so I can make space to attract the kind of full body fuck yes soulmate client that I'm really desiring to work with. Because that's the only kind of client I'm super stoked about. So that's kind of my view on it, is like, yes, it can be an excuse, but also it's our job to make space to open it up to the kind of client we really want.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I love that viewpoint from like the business owner perspective. What if you flip that? And what if, like, when you've hesitated for hiring previous mentors, or if somebody is saying, I want that, but I want abundance in my life. I want abundance around money. I want abundance in my health and wellness, but I have this roadblock. Like, if you're in the client role or the buyer role or the investor role, whatever you want to call it, what are some things that you've done to kind of improve your mindset to make it possible for you?
So when I'm investing in a coach or a mentor, for me, I'm paying myself. That's what it is. Every time I make an investment in a mentor, I'm just imagining like that I'm literally putting that money into my bank, like it's coming back multiplied right then. And that is really what it is to me. Like, energetically, that's what it is. And I've created that belief in my reality, and it's become the reality that I live and breathe. And it has been since day one. And that is the intention I set. Like, I get to choose my relationship with money. Money is an energy, and I'm choosing to have this relationship with it where I know that when I'm putting it towards something that is in complete devotion to my deepest desires and highest inspiration, it pays me back. Like, the universe is my sugar daddy. That's like my favorite phrase that I always tell myself. Like, no, the universe is my sugar daddy. And when I'm doing things in full alignment with the universe and my highest self, I am always rewarded. And that's the way I look at it when I invest, whether it was my first time hiring a coach for $600 or now I'm making 20K investments in coaches all the time. And it's the same thing. And I remember the first time I hired my first like high level mentor, it was $11,000. And at that point, like, I was just starting my business. I had just hit my first 5-figure month, and I had $10,000 in my bank account. And I was so scared, but all of me was excited. Like, I was lit up thinking about it. And that's the way I make decisions, is I make them based on my excitement, not based on my fear, because fear will always be there. So as long as my excitement is greater than my fear, I know that I'm going to be fully supported by the universe. And so I remember I said yes to that. 2 months later, the money came back multiplied. So that's the way I look at it, is if you're making a decision based on your current physical reality, don't expect your current physical reality to change. You have to make a decision based on where you desire to be. And that's how we make those quantum leaps and collapse time and like manifest crazy things into our reality. So you make those big, scary leaps based on where you're expecting to be.
Oh, I just really want to highlight what you just said. Like, fear will always be there. So you have to make a decision based on that excitement. Like, what is calling to you? What is pulling to you? Where is your intuition whispering? Because I hear fear a lot too, right? Especially with fitness goals, physique goals, relationship with your food. There's a lot of trust required to build back acceptance and compassion with your body. And I hear a lot like, yeah, but it's too scary. It's too scary to be around those foods. It's too scary to try intuitive eating. It's too scary to have an untracked meal and not worry about it or not weigh in or something like that. But that's such a great way that you put it. Like, there's always going to be fear. Unless you want to just stay the exact same forever, there will always be some type of fear and uncertainty.
Always, always. And something that I always say is that, and this is what's helped me in my life, is a huge mindset shift I embodied a few years ago, is that no matter what choice you ever make, whether you're deciding between, working on your health or not, or hiring a mentor or not, or anything like buying a house or not, there's going to be discomfort either way. No matter what you do, life will be uncomfortable. And you get to choose what kind of discomfort you're available for, right? The discomfort of staying where you are and looking back and wondering, what if? Like, that is really damn uncomfortable. Or the discomfort of taking a leap of faith and like not knowing where that's going to take you and just hoping that the universe is there to catch you. And that is also extremely uncomfortable. But only that second option has the option of you creating the life that you actually want for yourself. So when I look at that, I'm like, well, if I'm going to feel uncomfortable either way, I might as well feel the discomfort in the direction of my dreams. And sometimes, yeah, it's going to be horrible and you're going to feel like you're hitting rock bottom and you're going to fail. But like, that difference between people who achieve and manifest their dreams and the ones who don't is that the ones who manifest everything they want, they're willing to fail. They're willing to look stupid. They know there's going to be pain and discomfort. And yeah, there's still fear, but they know that no matter what, like, you're failing forward. It's a part of where you're meant to be going. So that's the way that I live my life. And, it's led me to a very magical life and I continue to embody it. And, yeah, that's kind of just like my mindset around fear is you can't let it hold you back.
Mm-hmm. And we've talked a little bit about abundance and specifically abundance with finances and making these choices that up-level your life and bring you closer to your dream life where you actually want to be. I do feel, though, we should dig into that a little bit more because abundance is very much a buzzword. Like, I remember the first couple times I listened to podcasts about it or saw Instagram posts and I'm like, they're kind of not talking about anything while saying abundance. Like, what does that mean? So what does that mean to you in terms of like a little bit of a working definition?
So yeah, the term abundance has been thrown around a lot and can mean many different things to many people. And I think when most people hear abundance, they think money, a number in a bank account. Like, I need more abundance in my life. But abundance is just an internal state. Like, it's actually our natural state. Like, we are abundant by nature. We already have everything available to us, energetically, meaning it's all already given to us. It's just a matter of us choosing it with our energy, which means a lot of deconditioning and deprogramming, all of the scarcity bullshit we've been fed since we were literally born. But that's all it is. It's an internal state of knowing and embodying that you have everything that you need and that you're always provided for and that you're safe. And the more we embody that internal state, typically by learning to trust ourselves and deprogramming everything else that says that we can't have everything we want and it's not already ours, the more we attract it. And so our physical reality is always going to be a reflection of our internal state of abundance. And that can look like abundance of love, abundance of friendship, abundance of money, abundance of experiences, abundance of freedom. Like, there's many, many, many people who have really full bank accounts, but they don't have any abundance. They just have physical money, right? It's completely separate. But when you create an internal state of abundance, you can attract a shit ton of money if you so desire it. Right? It's just a matter of whatever is a match for your internal state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so important, I think, because again, we do Like love talking about money and money mindset, and I can always use extra work there, but it's true that abundance can be in every area of your life. So thank you for highlighting that. And you mentioned trust too,
Mhm.
which I feel like is a big part of this. Like what are some of your tips for building more trust in your desires coming to you, in your
Mm.
manifestations, in your journey?
I love this question. So I would say it's important to start really small. So let's talk about trust in relation to money because that's kind of the topic that we've been speaking on a little bit. So let's say you want to trust your ability to attract more money, but you just don't feel like it's possible for you. In the beginning, when I was just learning about money manifestation and I was completely broke, sleeping on the floor, sharing a bedroom, like with, living paycheck to paycheck, $200 in my bank account, I was trying to learn to trust my ability to attract money. And I remember I would just like affirm that, money was always flowing my way and it was coming to me in unexpected ways. And then I'd be walking to work and I would find a penny on the ground and I would pick it up and just take a moment and just like thank the universe and feel the gratitude and just use the penny as proof that I'm always attracting money, and I would put it in my pocket. And I still do that to this day. I still pick up pennies and I thank the universe. And it's just little things like that, because if you're not noticing and focusing on and consciously creating gratitude for the abundance or the money or whatever form of abundance you want to attract, the abundance that is already in your reality, you can't expect to attract more. Because what typically happens is we're so focused on, oh, I want to manifest more money. I need $500.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're focused on needing $500, our focus is actually on the fact that we don't have it yet. So we're trying to attract more money from an internal state of scarcity of I don't already have it. It's not already mine. So we can shift that by, all right, I do desire to attract $500 or whatever the amount is. And now that I've created that intention, I'm going to shift my focus and I'm going to look for proof throughout my day that money is already coming to me, whether that be a penny or, finding a $5 bill on the ground or receiving a discount or someone buying you a coffee. When you ask for proof of abundance in any form, it will show up, but you have to be open to receive it. You have to be consciously available for it, which means shifting our focus. So starting there and building up. And now sometimes I'll ask the universe for like $1,000 or $3,000. And that's much easier for me now because I started with pennies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's similar to celebrating small wins, right? You're looking for those small nuggets of evidence so that it's easier to see proof and start trusting in the process. I know I was talking to a client recently who was really struggling with trust around food, and she's like, it just feels so far away. Like I feel like I'm struggling with overeating and binge eating so much right now that trusting my body, like, she was had some tears flowing because she felt like it was so far away. I'm like, but just like you said with money, if you feel like that manifestation, whatever your goal is, whatever your desire is far away and that's all you think about, it is just creating that space of lack, that space of I want it so badly because I don't have it yet. So in anyone listening who, they want that trust with food more so than with money or whatever it may be, you can apply this just the same way and just look for those little nuggets of when is my body cueing me that I'm hungry or full? Like say you're starving or you're craving all the chocolate in the world. Thank your body for sending you that signal of, oh, wow, a craving. Okay, I'm hungry. Like my body is telling me that it's hungry. Or say you do overeat. Thank your body for telling you, wow, I'm kind of overly full right now. I'm grateful that I have this information. Like now I'm really sitting with, okay, this is how it feels. I can learn from this and I can
Yeah.
keep building upon this. Like my body is giving me information because I feel this way right now. Even those little things can help with that process too. So like it all
Hmm.
comes back to that. Where are those little nuggets of trust and evidence and
Yeah.
proof that I can find?
Yeah, totally. And I'm glad you related it to food because it can be related to any area of life. And I think also a big part of abundance, or whether it be with food or in money or life or love, any area of life, what can block a lot of people from attracting what they desire is oftentimes we don't realize that we're attempting to manifest or attract something from a place of shame, from a place of, I don't like the version of me who spent money wildly or got me into debt, or I feel ashamed that I am overeating. I don't like this version of me. And when we're attempting to manifest something from a state of shame or judgment, uh, what we resist persists. And we're resisting that version of ourselves that we don't like. It's going to persist even more strongly and create more resistance. And we may even manifest what we desire. Like the money might show up, but when the money shows up, it's going to magnify the shame that we manifested it from. Like same thing with food or any other area of life. So a big part of manifesting abundance, right, rather than the physical things. That's why manifesting the physical money or the health or whatever, it's so separate from abundance. Abundance is an internal state of attracting from a place of acceptance and love, right? A place of, okay, there is a version of me who created all this debt and I do have shame for her. Or there is a version of me who overeats. But can I understand that those actions were simply a way for my subconscious mind to protect me? Right? Like I learned this eating mechanism when I didn't have any other coping mechanism to deal with some really deep pain that I was never prepared for. Like none of us are ever prepared for human life. Like we all have to deal with so much pain and chaos that no one teaches us how to deal with it, how to manage it. And so we all cope in the best ways that we can. And sometimes the only thing keeping us going is our coping mechanism, whether it's overeating or whether it's spending money or whether it's binge watching Netflix or having a lot of sex with random people. It could be anything. And so oftentimes we go to change our lives from the state of, oh, I feel so ashamed of that. I need to change it so that I can feel worthy, so that I can feel lovable, so that people are proud of me. And so what the huge shift is when we're like, wait a second, maybe I don't even like this part of me, but I can accept it and I can send it love, knowing that this part of me was just here to protect me from some really deep pain that I wasn't prepared to deal with. And that's okay. And from that state of acceptance, then we can manifest from a place of abundance, from actually attracting the kind of abundance, physical abundance, that will actually create an internal feeling of worth and magnify that feeling rather than going down the opposite path, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Yeah. And you reminded me of something a friend said to me lately. Because a lot of us get in this when we have a problem, we're like, okay, how do I fix it? How do I solve it? I don't like this. It's uncomfortable. I'm ashamed of it, kind of like you were saying. But even just taking 1 minute to be like, wow, what if this isn't a problem I have to fix? What if this is just an experience that I'm having that I'm meant to learn from? Kind of like you said, you've had business ventures fail. Like, so have I. I've definitely launched things that I'm like, that was a flop. Okay, what can I learn from this? How can I do better next time? Without letting it be like this shameful, heartbreaking thing, but like, this is an experience that I'm going through. I don't have to fix anything. I don't have to do more. I don't have to prove anything. Maybe I can just sit with this and learn from it a little bit.
100%. And it's difficult because, we're basically taught our entire lives to repress that stuff, to push it away. All the times that we felt shame as children and, no one was able to hold space for us, that created a lot of deep programming, right? To push it. Like we're not lovable if we're in a place of shame or embarrassed or making mistakes, etc. Just look at the school system. Like you don't do well on a test and you receive a bad grade and it creates shame. And so we're taught from a young age that any mistake is makes us unlovable or unworthy of receiving praise or what we desire. So it's for anyone listening who does feel shame around something, it's really important to understand that like it's not your fault. It's just a mechanism that was programmed into us from a really young age. But freedom from shame is so transformational. I think that's probably one of the biggest parts of my journey, especially recently, of being able to manifest like next level things into my life, is releasing the layers of shame and judgment and guilt around old parts of me or habits that I do want to change. Extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. And speaking of, some failures, some hard times, and then transforming them into growth, you have a lot of great content about deaths and rebirths. And I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm in my Saturn return right now too. So I just feel like I'm constantly dying and being reborn like over and over. And like, is this going to be done soon? But I think I have like another year actually of my Saturn return, which is just great. But Why do you feel like deaths and rebirths are such an important part of manifesting? And maybe you could give a couple examples of deaths that you grieved and then up leveled from.
Yes, I love this topic. And it's funny because this is the year of my Saturn return as well.
Ah,
But I've been experiencing deaths and rebirths. I mean, it's a normal part of the process. Of course, in your Saturn return, they can be a lot more intense, as I'm sure you know. This has been like the most intense year. I mean, I think the past 6 months have been the most intense death and rebirth cycles I've ever experienced, like low lows and really high highs, because the expansion must follow the contraction. But the way I like to describe death and rebirth is if you want to manifest the next level in your life, we're always attracting what we're embodying. And so that means that you must almost like become this new version of yourself. There's a new embodiment of you. But in order to make space for the new version of you, an old version has to die, right? We have to let go of something. And oftentimes there's a mourning period of letting go of an old version of you. And it can be really difficult because we often feel like, people know a certain version of us and we attach like whatever love we've received or connections or whatever it is to that version of us. And it can be scary to let go of a version of us that we feel like everyone knows and loves us for, whether it's energetically speaking or personality wise, it could be anything. So letting go of something, becoming something else, and then there's a space in between, the grieving space. I call it the mush, right? Where you're kind of like leaving a chapter and you're entering a new one, but you don't quite know what the new one is yet. And you like have one foot in the old one and like you just feel like you're totally lost and confused and it's chaos. And I call it the mush because whenever I'm in it, it reminds me of a caterpillar. Before it becomes a butterfly, it literally like becomes mush in the cocoon. And that can be what it feels like. And that's what it felt like for me this year is I kind of had this transition phase where I was experiencing like a death in almost every part of my life. I had a really difficult breakup and heartbreak. And at the same time, suddenly the business that I've been running, for 2.5, 3 years, like multiple 6-figure business suddenly stagnated. Like it was so weird. It was like, people stopped showing up and I started feeling like lost. And I just didn't know what direction I wanted to move in. And I moved to a new city where I had no friends, moved into a new house. So everything was new. I had no external safety. It was all ripped away from me. And that time just spent probably 3 months just in the mush, in my cocoon, in a space of not trying to change it, not trying to make any of it go away, but just being in it, not trying to make the heartbreak go away, not trying to make my business make money, not trying to change anything in my business. I actually stopped my podcast, stopped my business, shut everything down, and just was present with myself. And I was like, all right, I'm going to be here for the first time in my life. I'm just going to be here. I'm just going to feel all of this. And I'm going to stay in this extreme discomfort of my business doesn't align with me anymore. I don't know what direction I'm headed in. It's completely unknown. It could collapse. I don't know what to do about my heartbreak. It was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. I don't know what to do about having no friends around me in a brand new city. And I was in that space of a few months, and on the other end of it, things started to turn around. I started to like receive this clarity and inspiration. Things started to show up again. I had completely restarted my business in a brand new direction where I went down from like 8 hours of work 4 or 5 days a week to 3 hours of work 3 to 4 days a week, making the same money. Like I restructured everything, made it easier. It felt so much better, but it had to die. It had to completely die to be reborn. And same with the relationship and same with the friends and all of it. And now I'm in a stage in my life where I've never felt more connected to my community. I have never felt better about where I stand romantically. And I've never felt better or more aligned in my business and the abundance that I'm attracting there and the way I'm showing up in service. But if I had tried to manipulate reality or force what I wanted at that time, right, what would have felt comfortable was forcing the relationship to work, forcing my business to stay as it was and just keep doing what I'm doing to make more money. Like I could have done those things, but I wouldn't be where I am now, which is in a place that is so much better than anything I've ever experienced. But everything that was good had to die to make space for everything that is so much greater. But in the mush, you don't know what's coming. And so it's a space of just complete surrender and trust and knowing that you are so guided and so supported, and so many beautiful things are coming. And the sooner you're able to surrender to what is without needing to change it, the sooner things begin to shift.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Like I can relate to a lot of that. I feel like I'm in the mushy middle right now for
Mm-hmm.
sure. What are some what are some practical things that you've done to help like let go slash surrender slash grieve these old parts of you, you know, especially for the audience today? I'm picturing people who maybe they've had like a really intense background in fitness and they don't know how to like slow down and take their foot off the gas and start taking care of themselves versus the have to or should around fitness. Same thing with like tracking your food, weighing and measuring your food and your body constantly to like make sure you're perfectly on this path and you stay within these boundaries. Like people who really want to let that masculine energy, high achieving perfectionist part of themselves, let that go a little bit and move to a state that feels easier, that feels more flowy, more in connection with their intuition and the wisdom of their body. It's definitely a grieving process in my
Mm-hmm.
experience. So what are some practical like activities or even like meditations or anything that you've done that have helped you say goodbye to
Yeah.
those previous versions?
Yeah. I mean, grieving previous versions of yourself can be just as intense as grieving a romantic partner leaving, like a heartbreak. It can be really intense. And I have actually also like had years in my life where I was extreme tracking food and had disordered eating and, on the edge of an eating disorder for like 2, 3 years of my life. So, and now in a place where my relationship with my body and food is completely intuitive and it's healthy and beautiful and I love it, but it's been a journey to get where I am. And so I know intimately the process of grieving all those parts of me and letting go. And I think one thing for me is, well, two things. Number one is when you're letting go of different parts of you, what the universe is asking of you, or like what you're being called, like to ask of yourself is, who am I without these external things? Because we use external things, the tracking the food or the obsessiveness or I used to do like 3-hour workouts every single day. And I would like have anxiety if I couldn't make it to the gym or couldn't work out long enough. And I remember there was a point where I had an injury and I couldn't do all of those things for a while. And I like freaked out and I had so much anxiety. And what I realized is I was being called to look at my relationship with myself and like, who am I if I can't do these things? And I realized I was using those things to feel lovable. And I truly believed that I wasn't a lovable person if I couldn't do those things, if I couldn't look a certain way or whatever the thing was for me exactly. And so I started asking myself, like, who am I without these things? And it's the same questions I asked myself recently when I had last Denver birth is, who am I without the success? Who am I without the money? Who am I without the partner? Like, who am I without any of these external things? And can I love myself, or can I at least accept myself without any of this? Because if you don't allow yourself to go there when you're in that process, you're going to be forced out of it. Like I had that injury and I was forced to face it. And the universe will do that to you. If you ask for the next level in your life, but then you don't go there, you're going to be forced there. You're going to be forced to face these questions. So you can either choose to go there yourself, or you can wait until you're pushed into it in a really uncomfortable way. Like my injury, not being able to work out anymore, or my business stagnating itself. So I had to look at this is really like, I would journal on that a lot. It's like, who am I without this? Am I worthy of love without it? Like, can I actually accept myself? And I used to look at myself in the mirror and stand in front of the mirror naked without my clothes and just send love to my body. And in the beginning, it was so difficult, especially in the midst of the injury and my body changing. And without the obsessive working out and tracking of the food, is just looking at my body and sending love to all of the parts that I didn't like. And I would just like look at my tummy and I would hold it and I would like hold the rolls and I would just say thank you to it. Like, thank you. Like right now, I don't even have it in me to like you, but I can still be grateful for you for everything you do for me. Like, thank you for being here and thank you for digesting my food. And I would do it with my legs too. Like, wow, it's so amazing that I can walk wherever I want. Not everyone gets to do that. Like, thank you. And I would just do that every single day. I would also write letters to my body used to write letters to my body every day. Something else I have done many times is writing a letter to the version of myself I'm letting go of and thanking her for everything. Like, thank you for all of the mistakes you made. Thank you for all of it, even the parts that were really painful and the parts that didn't feel good, because they're the building blocks of where I'm going. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that where I'm going is going to be amazing. And I wouldn't get there without you, including all of the mistakes and the things that I didn't actually like. So I'd write those letters, and then sometimes I'll burn them. I write the letter and then I burn it, and I have like a ceremony where I just kind of like, for me, fire represents like death and rebirth. It's like burning away the attachments to those old versions and then making space for that new version to like really be embodied in my life.
I love those ideas. I'm a huge fan of letter writing to, yeah, versions of yourself, even like writing a letter to your disordered eating and thanking that eating pattern for trying to keep you safe and for teaching you what is ready to be let go now and things like that. You know, they're like we were talking about early on, all of the challenges that we're presented with are usually opportunities for us to expand, even when they're uncomfortable, which a lot of them are super uncomfortable, but they're always going to be an opportunity for you to look at that if you can face it head on and say hello to that fear and that discomfort and learn and grow. So I really, really like those ideas. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Of course. Yeah. I think that the letter writing for me has gotten me through so many difficult times in my life, because actually where I'm living in Costa Rica right now, I lived here 5 years ago when I was in the midst of some of the worst points in my disordered eating journey. And so coming back here, I moved back here again last year, and it was really triggering because I was faced with these versions of myself, like all the memories, and it was triggering even though I'd moved past it. And I realized like I still had a lot of healing work to do around that. I remember just writing her a letter, just saying like, thank you so much for protecting me, because at that point in my life, like I had so much pain and just like internal trauma that I didn't know how to process or deal with. And that was the only way at that time that I was able to process it. I didn't have the tools. Like I wouldn't have been able to be present with all of that pain and all of that trauma. I would have completely broken down. And so at that time, the disordered eating was a way to distract myself. And so I was able to find some gratitude for that part of me of just like, thank you for protecting me, because without that coping mechanism, I don't know if I would have survived. And so I'm so grateful. And now I'm happy that we're moving through it. But thank you for doing everything you could for me. Like, I'm so grateful for myself. And like just having that love for that version of me who I judged and shamed for my entire life. It was like I let go of like 100 pounds of weight off of my shoulders. It was really, really powerful. And I think that was a big part of also, like, I think it's a continuing process of healing your relationship with food. But letting go of that was just like, it shifted everything for me.
And this is another, I mean, basically what we've been just talking about is shadow work, which is another huge piece of manifesting that I think a lot of people talk about these days. And it sounds all like dark and dismal, but basically what we're talking about is doing that shadow work that allows you to open more, open to receive more, open to all of your desires coming through, creating space for more self-worth and that trust in your life. Would you kind of agree with that as
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, that's everything. Like all of the deep manifesting work, like if you want to Google manifestation or you've like heard of it before, typically you see like make a manifestation list or like make a vision board or script or, you know, do a meditation, like all of these things. And those tools are fun, but they only work to the extent that you do the deep internal work. And this is the deep internal work. It's like the shadow work, which really just means, like that word is thrown around. It just means integrating the parts of you that have been pushed into your subconscious, which is usually the parts of us that we feel shame for, that we feel judgment for, that we don't feel worthy of, that we feel like aren't worthy of love. And we push those parts of ourselves into our subconscious. And as long as they're there, that vibration is still within us. And we're going to continue to manifest experiences in our life to pull that out of us. Right. And so until we actually face it and accept it and work through it and integrate it and love it, it's going to continue to manifest in our reality as people, as scenarios, as things that trigger us, that trigger those parts of us that feel unworthy and unsafe and unlovable. because the truth is that every single part of us is lovable, even the parts that we have the deepest, deepest, deepest shame around. They're all lovable. And so when we're able to like really lean into that and understand that, and usually with the work of a mentor, help of a mentor, because this can be difficult, is pulling those parts out, bringing them to the surface, witnessing them, accepting them, and bringing them to a place of love, of wait, this is a part of me and this is allowed to be a part of me. I don't need to push it away anymore. And from that place, like that is where abundance comes from. It's like when we pull out all of the other things that are weighing us down, like we become energetically lighter and our vibration raises. So like you don't raise your vibration, same thing. Like it's like another word that's thrown around is like vibration, raising your vibration. You don't raise your vibration by being happy all the time or like being cheerful all the time. You raise your vibration actually by facing all of the shit that you actually don't want to look at that is really, really painful and bringing that back to love. And that's where all of the actual deep quantum manifestations, like that's when that stuff happens and life starts to get really magical.
Yes, totally agree. And if that calls to you, that is what my 3-part free workshop, More Than Willpower, is all about, is kind of giving you guys a kickstart to looking at your beliefs around food and your body, and basically an intro to shadow work for manifesting your health and wellness goals. So definitely check that out if you haven't gone through that workshop. And thank you so much, Kristen, for all of this knowledge. I feel like this was a great overview of like how you can manifest abundance from the space of trust and love and self-worth, which is just, who cannot benefit from that? Like everyone hopefully is just soaking in this episode. So before I let you go, where can people find you? Where can they learn more? How can people work with you? Please share all those details.
All the things. So the best way to find me is on Instagram. I'm at Pursuit of Bliss with an underscore after it. I have a podcast also called Pursuit of Bliss. If you want to work with me, I have a manifestation course to manifest your dream life. It's called Blissful Abundance Academy. And if you want more intimate work, I also have mastermind and one-on-one containers. And you can find all of the information on my Instagram.
Amazing. I will make sure to link that in the show notes. And remember, if you guys liked this episode, if you want to learn more about manifestation, you want to hear more about that on the podcast, make sure to take a screenshot and share this to your story and tag us both so we can give you some love back. And thank you for listening today. And thank you again, Kristen.
Thanks for having me.